twang away.
Well, it's what it's all about today. Hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
This is lovely Krista Banks and the gorgeous Kev Kennedy, and I am Claire Kennedy, and I'm still here, and I'm having a good day today. I'm having a good day today. Yeah, I'm having a good day today. It's been a tough week, though, I'm not going to lie. I'm getting fed up of this lockdown malarkey. It's great, though. Great. We can see light at the end of the tunnel, which is amazing. Can't wait to be able to get out there and have a coffee with people in the flesh. Give them a proper cuddle. Oh,
sorry, I'm just doing something. It's nice. All right. It's all right.
The t-shirts.
Are you trying to promote our t-shirts there?
Yeah. Sorry, my computer went a bit weird.
Okay. Well, just for those of you who are curious, those t-shirts are purchasable on our website. Yes, modelled by the gorgeous Kevin Kennedy. So anyway, getting back to today's show, welcome to our Wednesday Recovery Talks. I have the absolute privilege of introducing a wonderful friend of ours, Krista Banks. We are not saints. He's going to tell you more about himself in a little while. For those of you who don't know, we're a small project based in Brighton called Kennedy Street. And we do this show every Wednesday, and it's called Recovery Talks, and it's all about just disseminating the message of recovery. It's emerged because of lockdown. We are trying to help people around the country understand where recovery lies in the community, what it looks like, who are the people that are the go-to people. So Chris is going to tell you more about his project and what part recovery plays in that. And there's some amazing projects around the country. We're really, really passionate about everything to do with recovery. So, you know, and it isn't one size fits all. It's not a case of, I'm just going to go there and that's where I'm going to find recovery. We're so blessed now to have so many different ways of accessing a recovery process. And that's what these talks are about, really. It's about introducing you who are watching to all the wonderfulness that's out there that's on these amazing recovery pathways. And yeah, and just to help you understand that if you're stuck, if you want to have a conversation, we run a helpline. So it's a recovery helpline. It's national. It's free. It's a point of contact that you can actually pick up the phone. You can speak to a peer who's in recovery, and you can start your recovery journey there. And what we do is we connect you to all of the amazing resources that are freely available in our beautiful green country. So yeah, I'm going to shut up now because I can rattle on for hours, and I'm going to introduce you to my very handsome t-shirt wearing husband. There he is, look, Recovery Rocks. Over to you, Kevin Bear.
Hello, everyone. It's Kevin Kennedy. I hope you're well. Lovely to see you. As you can see, I'm wearing my Recovery Rocks t-shirt, which I thought was quite apt for today, because today's a good one today. I like this one because as you can see, I'm very much interested in music. And when Chris first came on and we went live, we were discussing my guitars, which is universal. It's like football. It doesn't matter who you are in the world, what you do. If you start talking about guitars or football, you're immediately on a level playing field. However, I digress. So Chris is a director of the first, I may be wrong, but I think it's the first ever recovery recording label and studios, possibly, and they are called We Are Not Saints, which I think is a cracking name. And they've got an album out soon, which is called Liberation Through the Looking Glass. It's 20 odd tracks by musicians. I think they're original tracks by musicians who are in recovery, and addiction seems to be really quite prevalent in musicians, actors, and the rest of it. I don't know why. Well, that's a whole new program. But Chris is going to tell us something about himself, his journey, and how this brilliant idea of his came to fruition. So over to you, Chris.
Hi, yeah. So, thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you very much, Claire, for having me on the show. Just a bit about myself then. So, my kind of journey in music is very much mirrored by my journey through drugs and alcohol. I kind of got into got into bands and music about the age of sort of 14, 15, as most people do at school. About the same time that I discovered cannabis and drinking, and I just fell in love with music, but also fell in love with that kind of, you know, going out on a Friday night, going to gigs, partying. Started off playing in bands, and that kind of that whole scene as well. So the kind of band culture of the the mid 90s to early noughties. So all the time sort of playing in bands and getting into different drugs and different kind of different social circles and things like that. And basically just carried on through that all the way through my 20s. When I was in my mid 20s, moved down to Brighton after a particularly hectic year to come and join a band. I'd sort of had a bit of a tough time of things up in Essex, and someone said to me, "Oh, why don't you come to Brighton? It's really chilled out." And I came to Brighton and found it was not chilled out. It was certainly the scene I was in wasn't chilled out. So things progressed quite rapidly once I moved down here, got into cocaine and amphetamines and things like that. It really kind of took hold of me. And by the time I was 30, went to university, I did a degree in music business and management, as my kind of dreams of playing Wembley and Lollapalooza kind of slipped away because of my drinking and drug use. So I decided to go to university and study music business and management. And then by the time I was 35, still with these wild aspirations of kind of making it on the business side of the industry and expecting to go and work for kind of Sony or Universal, I was just completely washed up, living in one room above a pub in Hove, kind of having no prospects and no hope. So I got sober after a particularly horrendous fight with a friend of mine over £5. Started going to fellowship meetings. And what I found on my recovery journey is that I was happening across musicians who had really great stories to tell, like really incredible history and a really beautiful way of playing, because these were people that had played their whole lives, and maybe put it down for a time when they were in the madness, but certainly, now they were in recovery, they were picking it up and finding that actually sober, they were 100 times better as a musician than they ever had been when they were drinking and using. And so as I carried on through my recovery journey, sort of the next couple of years, I kept meeting different musicians. I sort of started thinking to myself, there's got to be something that we can do here. Where do these people get to play? And I'd, in the meantime, got a job back in the music industry, working as a booking agent in Hove, and was going out to the gigs and the bars and things, and kind of felt that my recovery I was safe in my recovery, but it always felt uncomfortable to go into those places, to go and see music, and looking at the musicians that I was working with, and they were getting offered free drinks at every venue, and some diving outside for a cheeky smoke when they were supposed to be playing and stuff. And I just thought, this isn't safe if you're in recovery. This is a real maelstrom of kind of triggers, if you like. So I left the booking agency job and went to the Great Escape in 2018, the Great Escape Festival down here in Brighton. For those of you who don't know, it's Europe's biggest music conference, and has obviously the amazing live music festival that runs alongside it. And I intended to kind of go along and find myself a new job and find some people who were in recovery in the music industry and kind of see if I could find an avenue for myself in that way. And I didn't find anything, to be fair. What I found was free bar after free bar, and it was all networking events. We're in bars. I went to Artists Without a Label. They had a thing in the basement in Brighton, and I thought, this is great. This is where the independent people will be. This is where I can go make some contacts. And as soon as I walked in, they gave you a wristband and said, the free bar's that way. Here's the Wi-Fi code. And I was just like, this is great. I stayed there for 2 minutes to check my emails and then left. Meanwhile, all the rest of the industry people, the revelers, were just having it large in this basement at 2:00 on a Thursday afternoon. And I just thought, this is mad. It's like, how can this be? So on the Saturday, I went to see Imogen Heap deliver a conference about DIY in the music industry, doing it yourself. I'd had years of experience in bands, years of experience managing bands and promoting my own club nights and live music events. And I sat down and I thought, you know what? If we want to do this, if people in recovery are to have any sort of meaningful experience in the music industry, we have to change it from the inside. So the idea came about to set up a record label and live events company, which kind of became an offshoot, specifically working with people in recovery. So people who are just not getting the opportunities. You know, what do we do when we're sober? And, you know, we can't go down our local and play an open mic night for pints, or, you know, even the concept of going out on tour and doing it safely. Do you tour with other bands who might be drinking and using while you're in the, you know, while you're in the dressing rooms, or, you know, so it just became this kind of like, this banner waving, basically, for banner waving for change, but in the meantime creating a platform that really puts recovery at the heart of what we do. So we work with Small Pond Studios. Kevin, you mentioned studios. We don't have our own. We use Small Pond down the road, but they have a very incredible manager called Matthew, who is just really sympathetic to what we do. You know, we make sure that that all our artists have regular welfare checks, so we check in with them, make sure they're keeping up with their meetings, or whatever their pathway to recovery might be. We check in with them to make sure that they're doing okay. You know, we don't record in studios where people are sitting at the console smoking weed all day, because that's, you know, a lot of people's experience, or that there's a mini fridge in the corner. And it really is about giving people an opportunity that they wouldn't otherwise get, to give people the chance to go and write their music and to record it in a safe way, and to perform it in a safe way, and to kind of release these incredible stories through song out into the world. And that's kind of, yeah, that's our kind of remit, really, if you like, is kind of, you know, recovery first, and then just incredible music and incredible stories and incredible talent, hopefully.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. It's very, very inspirational. And much needed, much needed. I mean, Kev's been involved in the music industry for most of our time together, which is coming up for 28 years, and it is quite terrifying. It is. I mean, if you're in active addiction, it's brilliant, but I don't know how people get stuff done, to be honest. But there is such a need. There is such a need for safe, not just safe venues, but, you know, companies like yours that are encouraging just a creative way of being, a real outlet, but with a real heart for change. So I take my hat off to you. I think you're amazing. I know you.
Thank you. Thanks, Claire.
I know how amazing you are, and I also know the amazing artists that you've got on your album. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the album? Because it has launched, hasn't it, Chris?
It has. It came out on the 25th of January. So obviously, yes, we all love to mention COVID at the moment, even though everyone's trying to sort of pretend it doesn't exist, or just praying that we get through it as soon as possible, which I'm kind of, I have a foot in every single camp in that conversation. But, you know, when we sort of were staring down the barrel of a global pandemic last year, obviously our kind of year's plan had taken shape already. We were going to do 1 gig a month. We were going to try and blend what we do with some of the more commercial venues in the city. So we were having conversations with the likes of Hope and Ruin, with the Green Door Store, about actually opening but running a sober bar for the night and doing things that way. And we were trying to not just host recovery events, but actually to include the wider contemporary music scene in the city. So that was our kind of mission for last year. And obviously COVID happened, and very quickly every single gig that we had booked was just like gone. So I sat down in, I think it was April, and I was sort of like, you know, really racking my brains. I was like, how do we even survive this year financially, let alone continue to be creative within this world? So we tried some of the kind of Facebook Live gigs. Some were successful. Some had the worst sound quality you've ever heard in your entire life, with guitars phasing in and out, and vocals being cut out by guitar signatures and stuff. And so we kind of quickly abandoned that. And I kind of happened across the idea, or it was when I think I didn't happen across it, but it was the Arts Council announced some funding for organisations, creative organisations, artistic organisations during COVID. So and portion of it was to sustain you, and the other part was to develop a new practice. So I kind of sat down and spoke to some of the musicians we work with, and I said, look, you know, how would you feel about being commissioned to write some music about your experiences of being in recovery in lockdown? So when fellowship meetings are taken away, smart meetings are taken away, when you can't see your drug counsellor, when you can't see your sponsor, or even go for a coffee with a mate who's in recovery, you know, what does your world look like? How does everything take shape for you? So we applied to the Arts Council, and they were all very responsive, and they were sort of like, yeah, we'd love to do it. And so we applied to the Arts Council for funding, and we're very fortunate. We got the funding through very quickly, actually. For the Arts Council, it was amazing. I can't praise them enough for how quickly they turned all that round last year, because it was a real feat. And a big shout out to all the funding bodies who kind of really stepped up for every social enterprise and charity in the country, really, that they really redoubled their efforts and saved a lot of people. But the Arts Council came through with the funding, so I was able to go to 8 different musicians in recovery and commission them to do exactly what I just said, which was to write about their experiences. And so so they went off. They got paid to go and have a week of writing, to do some writing, and they all came back, and some wrote 1 song, some wrote 3 or 4, some wrote 5, 6. And we so it was in that very narrow window of, I think, July and August last year, when everything was looking a bit hunky-dory, that I sort of we managed to get in the studio and very rapidly turned around the album. It's an acoustic album, so there's not a lot of extra instrumentation, which was a bit of a relief, because I think if we'd gone any bigger, it had never have got made. So the guys and girls went and recorded it, and it was really important for me to have a good mix of people on this record. So we've got people from the Black minority ethnic community, we've got LGBTQ plus people on the record, we've got a 50-50 split of male and female as well. So it was about taking society and taking the recovery community and kind of having what I hope is fair representation. There's people from different economic backgrounds as well, so having a fair representation of the recovery community in wider society, and sharing their experiences of being in lockdown. And so they recorded the album, and then we spent ages mastering and mixing, as you do with these things, and developed a really great relationship with 66 Productions here in Brighton, who are a vinyl pressing people company, and they did a really great deal on if we wanted to do a vinyl. And so I thought, you know what, we've got a bit of this budget left. Let's make our first physical format record. So it was really great to be able to press it onto vinyl. And what was even more impressive was to be able to go back to the musicians who, these guys and girls have kind of been in music or have played music their whole lives, and have never, everyone aspires to having their song on a vinyl record. And then I could go round a few weeks back and socially distance, of course, drop it on their doorstep and go, there you go, there's your record. And it was a beautiful moment, because that's the sort of thing that people just don't expect. There's musicians out there who are in the regular everyday industry, and they aspire to a vinyl, and some will never get that. And it was just a great thing to be able to deliver to people. But the record itself is an incredible message of hope. What could have been quite a gloomy, melancholy kind of everything's gone and I'm so sad kind of record is actually is full of hope and full of joy and full of laughter. I think there's a couple of great lyrics in there. One from Callum Johnston about seeing a man walking his rabbit in Regency Square, and there's a couple of things in there that just make you smile. But there's also some songs in there that do really pull at the heartstrings, and that kind of make you go, oh God, this person has had it tough. But the overwhelming sense is one of hope, and I hope when people listen to it, that they really relate to it. I think that's the thing, because you don't have to be in recovery to feel empathy and to understand what a lot of the songs are about. So I think that's a really important thing. This is an album for everyone, from people in recovery.
Absolutely. And like I say, we know and love the artists that are on that album, and we know them personally, most of them, and we're passionate about that. And they are really talented, amazing musicians. I mean, like, uber talented. This is a fabulous album. And also, I know that we talked about it earlier, Chris, you were saying that if people sign up for your newsletter via your website, they'll get 15% off the album. Is that right?
If they sign up for the newsletter, they get 15% off in our online store. So we've got much like yourselves, we've got an array of t-shirts, and I think we've still got some mugs. There are some We Are Not Saints mugs, and the album's on the store as well. So if you go and sign up for the newsletter, you get the 15% off, and the album, it's all available through the online store. Yeah, and that's at wearenotsaints.co.uk.
There you go. And it's scrolling across the bottom of our screens as we speak. So if this is people looking back. So one of the questions is, a young man called Scott wants to know, I'll just put that on screen, is, are there any of the tracks on YouTube that that he can have a listen to?
From this album, yeah. If you go to our YouTube channel, which is obviously We're Not Saints, then there's actually, you can go to our playlist, which has the full 25 track album is on there, or you can just search Liberation Through the Looking Glass, and I think it does come up with the individual tracks as you go through YouTube. So yeah, it's all up there on YouTube. It's also available through Spotify and Amazon and all the usual. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to product placement. Is that allowed? Through Spotify, Amazon, Deezer, all your usual streaming outlets. So yeah, and you can listen to the album for free on our website as well. If you go to the music section, all the MP3s are up there. You can listen for free, and you can buy a digital download copy from us direct as well. Yeah,
we want to encourage, obviously, people to listen to it, but really we want to encourage people to not only buy it, but to share it. Share people. If you're listening to this and you want to make a difference and you want to see, you know, the huge potential that people in recovery have got, you know, buy this album. All of the profits are reinvested back into We Are Not Saints, so that they can go on to produce more amazing stuff. And it is a real socially innovative business idea. I love social innovation. I'm all for. Kev's dying to ask a question. I can see he keeps leaning forward.
I think because I've been on both ends of this, like yourself, Chris. I mean, I was touring when I was, a kid. And, I went through all that rock and roll, proper rock and roll. This is the way you do it, and I think now it's changing. I think mainstream music is drifting towards sobriety. Some of the big stars like Christy Moore, for example, he doesn't drink anymore. In fact, Christy was after banning booze from his gigs at one point, but being of the Irish nation, they wouldn't even go to it. I don't think. Fair enough. And obviously Eric Clapton. And I've been lucky enough to come across other working musicians who now it's all changed. Now they do vocal warm-ups and these are big artists, and they just telling I was working, but I bumped into Knopfler, and he was telling me that, they used to just go, a couple of lines, a few beers and on the go or whatever. And now they do vocal warm-ups, don't drink. Other people I know now, they used to sort of be drinking. Now they have a cup of tea. And especially country music as well, apart from Willie Nelson, who'll always smoke weed. The rest of them are pretty clean, because I think that the productivity is better, and the product they produce is not murky. It's cleaner. So I think things are changing along that line.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. I think there's a certain. I think if you want to have any, I think it's sort of known now that if you want to have any sort of longevity within the music industry and have a career and not wind up kind of washed up and done by the time you're sort of in your mid-30s, I think people are identifying that, yeah, like you say, like Knopfler, they're doing vocal warm-ups, they're drinking mineral water, they're kind of looking after themselves. But I think at the very kind of entry point of the music industry, there's still very much a kind of an attitude that, and certainly at grassroots level, there seems to be this attitude of like, well, we won't pay the bands, but we'll give them a crate of beer because that only costs us a tenner. We won't pay them 100 quid or 200 quid for doing a 45-minute set. We'll just give them a crate of beer and that'll keep them happy. And there's still that attitude at the other end. So the moving through the spectrum of the music industry, I think you're absolutely right. There's this kind of an understanding at the top end, where you've got people like Eric Clapton, who now sober, have had a very long career but know that they need to look after themselves, really. But there is still this kind of attraction, and I think it's definitely with younger people that there's this kind of rock, sex and drugs and rock and roll aesthetic, and that was the trap that I fell into. Sort of speed to stay awake and drink to go to sleep, and smoke weed to go to sleep, and it was that, and it. I think people sort of see it as rock and roll, and I think that is the myth. Really, it's not. I
think that's always going to be. I think no matter what happens, rock and roll is going to be at some stage. Is going to be about rebellion and all that.
Yeah.
But now it's changing. I mean, I did a gig for Guitar Saves Lives, and there was a chap telling me that there was now there's AA meetings backstage at festivals and things like that, which I think is amazing. I think that's absolutely brilliant, and I think. And I was also the part you talked about doing a gig with a with a dry bar or a non-alcoholic bar. Now, to my way of thinking, now this is just my opinion, that I'm not sure if that's the right way, because it's a bridge to normal living, and booze is out there, drugs are out there. There's no way that's going to work. But I think it's more powerful if there's just normal people who drink and whatever, and the band are sober and the band are clean. I think that is a more powerful message than kind of isolating people who love music. And I think the message will be a lot stronger. Do you think that's right, or am I talking rubbish as usual?
I mean, with the kind of setup that we were looking at last year, with kind of bridging this moving to being inclusive with the wider contemporary music scenes, was we did the Hope and Ruin, and we kept we said to everybody, the bar downstairs is still open, the bar upstairs is a sober bar. You feel free if you want to go downstairs and get a drink and come back up, that's fine, but we just didn't want to have the main bar open in the main performance space. Obviously, the Hope and Ruin's got stage at one end and a bar at the other, and we just kind of felt there would be, because we knew that the majority of our audience would be in recovery, so we kind of kept it like that, but said to people when they came in, if you do drink, the bar downstairs is open, and that worked really well. And I think it is about, what we're trying to do is be inclusive, and you're right, that bridge to normal living is really important, but what we don't want to do is shut the door to people who are in new recovery. We would very much want to try and attract people who may have just come out of a rehab. They've literally, been in that bubble of rehab for the last 6 months, and they're going, well, what do I do with my life? And we want them to come to our shows rather than go, this is shit, this is rubbish, I'm going to a crack den, and that's the kind of, that's what we're trying to encourage. So it's about finding balance. And I think what we're definitely going to be trying to do when we move back towards live shows is having that crossover. So we'll be having some events in licensed venues, but then equally we'll be moving towards having more within the sober spaces as well. So I think for us, it's about finding the right mix, and having it open to everybody. But I think the really interesting thing in Brighton, especially, and it's starting to take shape in other parts of the country, is the sober curious movement, or just the sober movement. People who are now, they don't have a drink or drug problem, but they just don't want to go out to a gig and have beer chucked over them all night. So they just go, actually, these guys, we're not saints, they're recovery, but I don't drink, but it's accessible to me, so I'll go. And then we start to attract that particular sort of collective of people as well. So it is about balance, and you're right, it is about the bridge to normal living, but it's about being mindful of all quarters, I suppose.
Yeah, well, that's really cool. I really like that answer, because that is a mix. It's all about balance. It's always been about balance. Recovery is about balance. Now, say I'm a guy in recovery and I'm sat at home and I've got a dozen tunes that are ready to go, or I want to develop them. Can they get in touch with you and say, look, can I send you these tunes? Are you interested in these tunes? And the second question is, the money that you make from the album, and I hope you make loads.
So do I.
I mean, you can swear because we're discussing rock and roll, and that's that's mandatory. You've got to be able to swear. So if you earn shitloads of money from this album, where's that going to go into?
So to answer your first question, so if anybody is tuning in and hasn't heard of us, or is literally sitting there going, I really like that, I wrote that song when I was in rehab, or whatever your circumstance may be, you can get in touch with us through the website, or email me directly. So it's chris@wearenotsaints.co.uk. I love receiving new music. I don't get enough time to listen to it. I tend to make Friday afternoons is my kind of sitting down listening to submissions afternoon. But if you're in recovery and you make music, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. We are open door. We did shout outs across last year on our social media for anyone that was wanted to get in touch. And we can just talk. It always starts with a coffee. Every great thing starts with a cup of coffee and a sit down and a chat about music. And we've got two new artists that we're going to be working with this year who did just that. They've literally an incredible hip hop artist from Uckfield, and then an incredible soul singer songwriter from Essex, who I'm hopefully going to be meeting with them as soon as we can have a bit more freedom. And they did just that. They just got in touch through the website. Any money made through the album, that was your next question, is just going to be reinvested back into what it is we do. So we're currently in the process of connecting the dots around the country with various different recovery organisations, charities, services. So everyone from North Yorkshire Horizons up in Scarborough, we've got We Are With You over in Stoke, EDP down in Devon and Dorset. And what we're looking at trying to do is basically get the We Are Not Saints name out there by offering our services in events and kind of working with people in creative recovery. So anything we can do to help these organisations establish a musical kind of asset to their organisation. So whether it's songwriting workshops, whether it's we go to Scarborough and set up an open mic night for them, however it's going to work. So we're looking at any funding that we're receiving at the moment is kind of helping to build this new network, this new community. Because the vision I kind of have is that, a guitar player in Bristol can go and do an open mic night in Stoke, and then they might swap, do a gig swap or something like that. And so, it's this invisible recovery superhighway that goes the length and breadth of the country, much like yourselves. It's connecting the dots, and it's having those assets for everyone in recovery in the UK to be able to engage in a meaningful way. So that's where the money's going, is to build this picture.
And We Are Not Saints, is it a physical place? Is it an office, or is it somewhere you can visit? Is it somewhere you can come in and just bring your guitar along?
It's not. No, we've been remote working for the last 3 years because we had no funding. But funny you should say, straight after this interview, I'm actually going to view some offices this afternoon. So we'll be hopefully have a physical space that we'll be able to conduct meetings and things. But yeah, mostly our kind of live events and our productions are outsourced. So we've run things in Brighton Open Market, the Unitarian Church. We've done a big gig on the seafront, which I think you were both at last year. Did you not come down to that? Or not last year, year before, wasn't it? The South Coast Recovery Walk. We did the main stage there. So but hopefully one day we'll have a physical. I'd love a little venue somewhere where we could just every night of the week just have people playing music.
I'll be there.
There you go.
I'd love to have you, Kevin.
Yeah, I love all that. Yeah, and sorry, I'll let Claire speak because I've kind of hogged it. Sorry, love.
He's on a roll now. He's on a roll. You can tell he's really passionate about music. He's like, oh, can't wait for Chris to come on. I can just talk about.
That's great. I love it.
Beautiful. I think it's brilliant. I really do think what you're doing is amazing. And like you say, it is about having an all-inclusive space. And you know what? Why shouldn't we have some dry spaces? We've piloted all of the dry bar ideas and the sober bars, and since we started, I think 8 years ago, we piloted lots of different sort of variations on dry bars because they were doing so well around the country. A friend of ours in Nottingham has got a great, who's been on the show actually, who's coming back on the show. So maybe you could tune in or even come in and you could do like a guest presentation with me and Kev and ask them about their sober space. So they've got a sober space in Nottingham. It's funded by their charity, which is Double Impact, and it's called Sober. So, just like you say, there's so many things that you said that I was like, bing, 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 bing. All of these amazing projects that have come on this show and come and talked, they are all opportunities to connect with. You've got Red Rose Recovery in Lancashire. These guys are amazing. They've got some fabulous people. We did a show the other week, a radio show, didn't we, Kev? And this DJ, he's a great guy in recovery, wants to talk about everything to do with recovery. It's just connecting with all these projects. And they all do have funding in place to be able to support their people that come to them to inspire them. Because as you and I know, and Kev knows, stopping drinking and drug taking is actually a tiny part of it. It's about building a life and finding your passions and finding your purpose and, being with people, connecting with people that you've got another connection with other than getting off your face. you know, sitting down playing playing a guitar with them and singing, and it's just a beautiful way of being in the world, and we do need dry spaces. I don't care what anyone says. What we discovered, Chris, by piloting these ideas is actually the people that came were the recovering community. They were supportive, but the really big surprise was the young people that came from university. And these kids don't have addiction problems. They don't have drink and drug problems. They just don't drink. And they're just like, no.
It's really interesting you say that, because I've done a couple of guest lectures at Northbrook Met over in Durrington, and I've done a couple at BIM as well. And the thing that I find is when you finish doing these lectures, you get quite a few young people coming up to you, not hordes, but a few young people that come up to you going, I really like what it is you do. Like, I like going out, but I don't like drinking. And I don't like being around drunk people. So what you guys are doing is amazing. We really, really enjoy that. We really want to kind of come along and experience what it is you guys are doing. And I think that's the overwhelming thing. My sister, who I think is tuning in this afternoon. Hi, Ashley, if you're tuning in. She rarely drinks. And it's kind of an argument against the whole hereditary drinking gene thing, because she barely drinks. And there are just young people now that just aren't interested. They just don't want to. I think it's very different to when I kind of started going out pubbing and clubbing, when it was £1 a pint every night and quid entry on a Monday to the nearest rock bar and stuff like that. That was just a done thing. But I think times are changing. And I think by having more to offer, I think cities will make themselves more attractive. There are pubs within every mile in every city centre, but if you can offer a sober space that's cool and attractive, well funded, that doesn't feel like a kind of thrown together ramshackle mess, but actually is just a very nice space to be in, that's fun and engaging, then I think young people will flock to it, and people in recovery will flock to it, and as I mentioned, the sober movement will flock to it as well. I had a really good conversation with a friend of mine the other day, who just sort of said, what we need is, essentially, it needs to feel like a youth club for adults. It needs to feel like Biker Grove for grown-ups. Yeah. And that's the thing. That's what it needs to be. If you're going to go and spend 3 or 4 hours on a Friday night, you want pinball machines and pool tables, and you want to be able to have fun and enjoy it with your friends. So that if you do drink and you go, the notion of alcohol is removed, because you're just doing so much other cool stuff. And if you're in recovery, it's just a nice place to hang out.
Yeah.
I've done tours. I've been lucky enough to do a lot of professional tours, not with bands, but with big musicals like Chitty Bang Bang and Chicago and Rock of Ages, and we were it's endless. And I've been very lucky to work with a lot of younger people, aged sometimes between 17 and 23, and they are dedicated. And they don't drink. They certainly don't drink like I used to drink when I was 18. And not just me, I think like everybody else. I think there's been a shift. Don't get me wrong, they like to go out and have a blowout now and again, as you do when you're at that age. But and they may go to the pub after the show, but usually that's to kind of meet someone that's been in the show, or there's a birthday or something like that, or some nights it's a quiz night. But it's not something they do every night. Whereas when I first started in the 1980s, I was on the road, and everyone would go to the pub straight after the show. I mean, we just did, but they don't do it now. So what I found you saying is very interesting. And my another question I have is what is the future? What does the future look like for We Are Not Saints? What exciting new projects, apart from the one I'm going to be involved in, of course?
Of course, absolutely.
I'm doing it. I love self-promotion, folks. You can't beat it.
Yes, okay.
What exciting stuff have you got coming up?
So I mentioned our kind of national program earlier. So that's where we're kind of sort of working with other organisations around the country to try and replicate or replicate elements of what it is that We Are Not Saints do. So we're essentially offering our expertise in kind of live events and delivering events in unique spaces, and also sort of songwriting workshops with our artists and things like that. So we're kind of doing that at the moment, and we've got everybody from, I think, Luton, Lowestoft, down to Bristol, Devon, Dorset, all the way up to the sort of Scottish borders. So we've got organisations that we're working with around the country, looking at delivering kind of music in their areas, keeping it more local. We are desperately hoping for a return to live events, and I did email a couple of my contacts yesterday on Monday, as soon as Boris said June 21st, I went, right, let's get on it. So we're hoping for a return to live events, preferably sometime in July.
17th of May, he said, didn't he say 17th of May? You could start opening up theatres and rock and roll venues.
He did, but because of the nature of what we do, where we try not to charge a wealth for ticket entry or for venue hire, we need to kind of guarantee a maximum number of people. So 17th of May, we could probably get a venue, but if we can only have 12 people, it's not going to work, because we try, as I said, we try and keep it inclusive. So
well, actually, it was up to 1,000. I think it was up to 1,000 you could have.
Okay. I also have a load of musicians who haven't rehearsed for a year as well. So it might be an idea to get them rehearsing. But so we're aiming after June the 21st. So probably, hopefully sometime in July, we'll be returning to live music. We've got new EP on the way, hopefully from Jim Trickster, very, very soon, as another one from Man Like Malcolm as well. We've got a new project in the offing with Liam Borman. Annie Murray is recording an album this year, and we are in the process of finishing off a new Defus J album, where he has taken the last year and become completely electronic. Even as a person, he's now completely electronic. No, he's not as a person, but he's just basically taken his entire back catalogue and just gone, do you know what? I'm gonna make dance music, and he's converted everything into dance music. So it's let's say dance music, more a kind of electro pop kind of 80s style. So there's sort of shades of Depeche Mode and Soft Cell in there and things like that. So we're really excited about that, and that's kind of coming hopefully very, very soon. That's about the only recording project that we've been able to really don't dedicate any time to. So lots of new music coming from us this year. We are in the process of recording the pilots for the We Are Not Saints podcast. So that's going to be a podcast that we're doing, and that will be released once a month. Kevin, I'd love to have you on as a guest for the podcast, if that would be all right.
Of course it would. I also have a box of albums that I'd like to give you anyway, that you can put on your website and sell them for whatever you need.
Oh, amazing.
I feel like that bloke, was it that bloke's got loads? Was it the League of Gentlemen who just had loads of albums? Yeah. Because I don't think anyone's buying CDs anymore, are they? I think it's all online.
We did a run of CDs very early on when we started out, and I've still got, I think I ordered 100 and I've still got 72 left. So, but the vinyls.
You're better off just giving them away for those people that want them.
I'll give you a couple of boxes of my one and only brilliant album, which I have to say, which did go gold, I have to say, and then you can do it as you will.
People can make a donation to your project then, if you want.
Great.
And it frees up some room in the shed.
Yeah, and we are moving. Here, actually, those boxes there, those are all the albums that I've just said to him earlier. I don't know what we're going to do. I'm not moving them.
Send them our way. We'll shift them for you.
My biggest fear, you see all these guitars here, that God forbid I die, right? And Claire will sell them for the price that I told her I bought them for.
No, don't do it. Don't do it.
Exactly.
Fortune, that corner that he's sat in over there. It's been absolutely amazing to have you on, Chris, and
it's been great. Thank you.
Really thrilled that you're doing so well. It's a joy to see you flourish. We can achieve anything, and you're a great example of that. Is what, have ideas, have dreams, have hopes, and you know what, don't overthink it, just do it. I remember having conversations with you, and just do it. And you're a perfect example of you know what, you just did it. You just believed, you knew it was going to work, and you just got off your bum and just went and found the people that you needed to find to make it happen. So well done.
Thank you very much. I think I'll just leave this as a kind of parting thought, was when I came into recovery, I had to get honest with myself, and I made a promise to myself, which was that anything that happened next in my life had to be 100 times better than anything that happened before. And there's only one way you can do that, which is just throw yourself into everything and give 100% of yourself. You know, that's that, whether that's fellowship meetings or whether that's ideas and projects or creative endeavors, you know, just give everything you've got, because you gave everything you got to alcohol and drugs and it fucked you up. So give everything you've got to life, and you know, and it will return, you know. And you know, today I run this amazing organization. My son was born last year. I never thought I was going to be a dad. That was amazing. So you know, it's yeah.
Congratulations to that.
Hopefully he's watching as well. I don't know, 7 months old, so he's probably got bored by now of Daddy talking. But yeah. So just anybody out there, just
what's his name? What did you call
Aries? Aries, yeah.
Oh,
Greek god of war. He's got a fiery temperament. Definitely.
really? Oh.
And for anyone who's listening, of course, you know, you're not on your own. Music is very, very important. I mean, without it, I would have been, that was game over. I mean, it was important when I was drinking and using, but it's even more important now. And during the lockdown, you know, I've got myself some new toys and things like this, which I still don't know how to use properly. But I'm having a good time, and I'm being productive, and it saved my life. So thanks very much. And Chris, as ever, a pleasure, sir.
Yeah,
thank you very much, Kevin.
So much, Chris. And do keep in contact. Do come back and tell us about all of the amazing adventures that you're going on. You know, if we can promote you and champion you, we're absolutely 100% behind you. I think you're amazing. I think what you're doing is amazing. Love the people that you work with. I'm sure we're going to love the people that you've yet to work with. And if we can connect you with anybody around the country, yeah, Kevin, look at him getting in there. But some of the great projects, you know, you've got David Hyam as well in Barrow in Lancashire. They've got an amazing project over there. They are really forward thinking. And like Kev said, music, it feeds the soul. And it's really mindful. Really mindful. What I find with music in recovery is you can't be sitting thinking about the problem if you're actually either singing, playing a musical instrument, or listening to music. You have to be in the moment, don't you? So it's a real mindful act. So, you know, I say more music, more of all of this wonderfulness. So yeah, thank you so much, Chris. Please do come back, won't you?
Of course I will. Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Claire.
Pleasure.
Lots of love, and give Aries a big kiss from us.
Of course we will. Yeah, no worries.
Nice to see you. Lots of love.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.